Well, good Tuesday morning, friends. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. So let's get open for business and let's thank those football gods. How are you doing, guys? What's up? They're doing their job today on this Taco Tuesday. This is a special Taco Tuesday because today is NFL trade deadline coming at 4 o'clock Eastern. 4 o'clock Eastern. And we've already had one blockbuster trade. The Rams trading for Von Miller, trying to change the shift of power to the Rams, hoping that it's like the Charles Haley move that the San Francisco 49ers unfortunately made to the Dallas Cowboys, which launched us to 3 Super Bowls. The problem for the Rams is, well, they're all in. They pushed everything. They've bet the house on this season because they literally have no draft picks. I think, they have no day 1 or day 2 because they traded their number 2 and number 3 for Von Miller. Their number 1 this year and the following year, of course, for Matthew Stafford. And I think their 4th round pick is gone as well. So they don't have a pick until the 5th round. I'm not even sure that they even show up to Vegas for the draft. I mean, at this point, you might as well trade the last couple of picks you have and just say, we're just not showing up for that. But that's where they are. They're hoping that this will be what gets them the ring. Stay tuned. The problem, of course, for that is at the moment they're renting Von Miller because his contract is up at the end of the year. So they say they want to keep him, but they have a lot of salary issues in there, and maybe they're planning on just mortgaging the future and just saying, they almost have to sign him beyond. You can't give up a second and third and just basically have him just for this season. They're going to have to re-sign him, which, of course, is it's a different way of doing football. For the Cowboys, Jerry Jones says he doesn't expect anything to happen for the Cowboys to make trades, and I don't think that they would because the concept of making a trade is you're bringing in somebody better to bolster your roster. Maybe you've lost some players and you need to replace them due to injuries, or maybe you need just a spot where you look as a weakness that we can go through. If we get a person there, it can help us to get that much better. But Jerry Jones said, talking about today's NFL trade deadline, the best deals usually comes when a team calls you. In other words, that team is desperate. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you go to the dealership, you never want to go to the dealership when your car broke down and you got to go to work tomorrow. You're not going to get a good deal. They've got you by the balls. They do. Because you're desperate, you know you got to have something, and you're not going to get the best deals. Whereas when you have time to look around, shop around, check, compare, walk away from the dealer. And then say, let me go talk to my manager. Don't go nowhere. You'll get a better deal because it's not out of desperation. We've made moves in the past out of desperation. Taco Charlton comes to mind. That was before DeMarcus Lawrence became DeMarcus Lawrence and was coming back off of back surgery. Tyron Crawford was your best defensive lineman / end. They basically said, who's going to rush the passer? And as the defensive tackles and defensive ends are flying off the board, the Cowboys reached for Taco Charlton. How'd that work out for us? Not real good. So don't expect over the course of the next 7 hours any big splashes from the Cowboys, because there's another part of this equation that people don't seem to understand. The Cowboys have about $3.5 million of cap room. Von Miller, the rest of his cap hit for the rest of the season is $9 million. Those numbers don't jive, so the only way you can make a move is restructuring somebody else on your roster or getting rid of something in kind to be able to sign them. Another thing that's going on there that you don't look at. And another point why you don't look at them making another move is because of the depth that they have. Michael Gallup was close to coming back and playing this week. He'll be back this week. And now we're hearing that DeMarcus Lawrence, it's possible that he plays this weekend against Denver. So now you're talking about 2 of your key players When you looked at the beginning of the season and said, we're going to play without those guys for 6 games, you would have been like, oh, my God, the season's over. But at this point, they're like a luxury item. They are, the cherry on top of the hot fudge sundae with the whipped cream. It's an embarrassment of riches that we have coming back. So knowing that we have players, Neville Gallimore, Tristan Hill, coming back, you have more firepower, as I like to say, latent energy that's ready to get kinetic. So we're good, from my standpoint, with what we have. And for me, just because we seem to have enough offensive linemen that we can put 2 in the backfield doesn't mean that I want to get rid of them, because you don't know who you might lose. You think the Titans thought that they were going to lose Derrick Henry? Well, if they listened to Brother Roz, they would have known. You can't have enough depth in the NFL in a case where it's a war of attrition. Final note, the good news, Dak Prescott. A lot of people have been saying, well, maybe we should rest Dak Prescott another week instead of playing him in Denver. Well, tomorrow the team gets back on the field in a modified practice because they played Sunday night. The real big practice actually is Thursday. And Thursday, Dak Prescott is expected to be a full participant in practice. The PRP shot apparently definitely did its thing. We all saw him working out on the field before the game and stuff, people thinking that he was going to play. But this was the great deception. And I think all of us played a role in that deception. You'll notice how I kept getting basically told I'm an idiot. I don't know what you're talking about. Dak is playing, I don't know what your sources are. You're a loser. You're not ESPN or NFL Network or Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport. You don't know what you're talking about. I had people literally get mad and say I was a clickbaiter. But I told you on Thursday he wasn't playing. But apparently, the Cowboys used that to their advantage, because the Minnesota Vikings say they were surprised that Dak Prescott wasn't playing. It was a ruse to end all ruses, and literally the Vikings weren't ready for Cooper Rush. So hats off to the Dallas Cowboys for finding other ways to get themselves an advantage. And as I watched last night, I felt bad for my son, Kyle Pizzle. The Giants did so many things right in that game. So many things right. But in the end, they just didn't get the victory. And that's when you realize, I don't know, and I hate to sully Jason Garrett, because Jason Garrett is one of those legendary quarterbacks, for Thanksgiving game against Washington, just like Clint Longley and now, of course, Cooper Rush. But that game, watching it last night, felt like I was watching a Cowboy game of the recent history, where we would do things great, we'd get great plays, the defense would do something and stand up and stuff, we'd shut down a great quarterback, but yet in the end, we find ways to lose. That does not seem to be this team that we have right now anymore. Those games like that, like Minnesota, we lose a player, boom, well, we're done. Check that off the box, because we've been doing that all season. Tight games where you'd have a back-breaking play like the touchdown pass against New England. Lost the game on that one. Boom. Find a way to overcome and keep our cool. Check that off. It truly feels like a different team completely from where we've been in the past. And I don't know how this season will end, but I will say, enjoy the ride. Seasons like this don't come along very often. You don't want to rush it. You don't want to push it. You just want to enjoy it. We got 7 games under our belt, and we have 10 more, and hopefully 3 after that. Let's just see where this whole thing goes. But a big reason why this season is going the way it's going is because of this guy. And I just want to listen to a little bit of this because this is interesting listening to Dan Quinn. I could listen to him all day.
It was fun as hell, the whole thing, from the environment. It was a good team win. I was so impressed by our offense on the last drive to see Amari on the big play to get down there. And then I thought the third down one to Zeke, was such a cool play. You're in the press box thinking, okay, we could be in 4 minutes. All right, now we're good, look like a tie, and then they get the first down on that one, and now you're going, in a totally different way to say, okay, now they got to go the whole way. And I thought just those 2 plays, I thought first one to Zeke and the second one to Mari for the touchdown was such a cool thing. So when you're in the box, you're kind of out of the emotion, so you're just kind of processing, okay, what's next? And I was just so impressed by them at the end. It was a good team win. It was fun as hell, and it was just fun to be in that environment with the guys. So with that, we'll let it rip, and some questions regarding the game.
Talk about your third down defense was such a big factor in last night's game. Just what you were able to do there and how the guys responded to the situations they were in.
And I think really the credit goes to the guys in the secondary. That's the third down and what we call during the week and how we go. And that's Joe Witt and Al, and that's part of their responsibilities goes to the game plan. Sometimes you think, hey, we're going to get this many pressures. This is how we're going to go, and then other teams want to block those and try to get on the outside, and you change course on them a little bit and maybe play some more 4-man rush and not blitz as much. So it was one of those games where we changed some on the fly. And but I think really the credit, like most times, goes to the players and them adjusting and being ready to get rocking. But I just thought the planning, especially by Al and by Joe on the passing game. This is an explosive offense, both in the run game and the pass game. So I think going in, knowing what to expect and how to play was going to be a big part of it. And I give those guys and along with the players a lot of credit.
Michael Parsons had began the first rookie NFL history with 10 tackles and 4 tackles for loss. Last week he talked about he didn't have a good game against New England. He came back and came in earlier, doing more preparation. Did you see that? Just talk about his performance and how he grew over the last week.
I did see that. In fact, because I get in pretty early, and so I turned around, I saw him walking in next to me. I said, okay, what do we got going on here? And he said, I'm changing some things. I want to get, and I said, I love it, man. So learning, it never stops. And certainly when you're a rookie, it's always going to be there. And I think part of learning how to correct yourself on some things, I need to do this a little different and this better and this tweaked it. And so he did that. I think that goes a long way into, when you're trying to improve, one of the best things you need to learn how to do is, put a process together. Like, what is that step-by-step going to look like? It's not just, hey, I'm just going to wake up earlier. It's to do what when you get here and what are the processes. And so, I knew when he got to the game, when you just feel that ready, I said, where did that come from? It was from the week. And I said, so it's no surprise, that you're going to play well. And he certainly did.
How do you balance letting a young player come to that realization on his own versus getting to a point where you need to say, hey, look, you need to
I think it's a little bit of both, because not everybody learns in the exact same way. What could take you 5 minutes to learn it and study it might take me 30 minutes just by the process of I have to go. So I would say, like most things, it's not one size fits all, but this is a really bright guy, so he can pick up things quickly. Obviously, we wouldn't have put him into so many packages and do different things if he wasn't able to do that. So sometimes just taking your own time to watch tape and do things, and you just got to go through it a little bit. If there was a issue where I didn't think he was putting in work, I would say, okay, just come meet me at this time, and we'll go through this together. And trust me, there's been plenty of those meetings, through the years with me. This was not that case. This was a player I want to do a little more and finding the balance for himself to do that.
Several players mentioned after the game the no excuse mentality y'all try and have as a defense. It's easy to say, but what's the key to getting guys to buy into it, and what does that look like on the field?
I think knowing what I was going to refer to earlier was a little bit of like there's going to be some adversity in every game, and when it comes, how do you respond and how do you answer for it? And so I thought having the mindset, calling on that mindset, there's going to be some plays, but you're going to come back and fight. And I thought, what a good example of that. You know, there was penalties on some drives that extended ones, but didn't mean they had to score. It just means, okay, they got, 15 yards or 10 yards, and now we got to go reset and play it again. But I was impressed by their mindset collectively to say, we're going to stand up, we're going to make the, whatever call we need to make, whatever change we need to make. And I've been impressed by that with their resilience, because sometimes in a game plan, it just doesn't flow that way at a game. Like people have done their own self-scouting and they may want to try a different blueprint. And as you get into the game, I think one of the most important things for a coach to have is like, okay, this shit ain't working. We got to try something else. And when those moments come, you better be able to adjust and adapt. And that's, with this group of guys, they're able to do that. And I think certainly I felt that in the second half. There was a number of drives, and they just kept going to battle for it. And it was just a game that you thought was going to fight all the way to the end. That's what made it so much fun and so exciting to be a part of.
The last example of that, when you have these penalties and they're moving down, and then it's, okay, you have 2 straight, 3 straight, maybe negative plays, and you force them to kick the field goal.
Right. And so when those ones happen, just because they got down the field, and I think Basham had 1, Randy had 2, and when it goes that way, you almost just have to reset. And if you bitch about the last play, it's certainly not going to help you on the next play. And so, yes, the first down, and how are we going to go about it from here? And those are moments that you have to kind of go through to learn and fight your way through it. And being in the tough, close games, there's things you gain from it. And they don't always go according to exactly how you want. Like certainly we didn't want 3 penalties on the, potentially, game, changing drive. But when they happen, you still have to be able to, have the ability to fight back and go. And I was certainly impressed by the group on that.
What did you think of the tackling that your team had? Not just Micah, but it seemed like there was a lot of plays where a guy would catch a ball, but there wouldn't even be a hesitation. They would get the guy down right away. And then also with that, how do you work on that in practice? Because I know there's only so much that you can do in terms of hitting like that.
Yeah, I think there's 2 parts to that, and I'll explain why. One, from a technique standpoint on tackling and tracking and owning a leverage to tackle somebody, and you can work that in practice. It doesn't mean you're going to take the guy to the ground, but it does mean, are you approaching the tackle with the correct leverage? And when you're playing against a back like Cook, who can jump cut so quickly, I might be head up or just have the right leverage, and all of a sudden he jumps and now I miss the tackle. That's when the relentless pursuit has to take over. If I miss a tackle, the next guy, because how hard he's running to go, can make up for a misfit or a mishit that happens. And that part I certainly felt it from Donovan. I saw it from Malik. I saw it from KZ. And oftentimes that's the safety who has to be, hey, man, this is the last person of the line of defense, and it has to go down on those terms. But the relentless style of over-the-top effort and speed, that helps. But it starts off usually with a leverage and a tracking. And we're improving in that area and tackling. And if you're going to play good defense, whatever team you're on in the NFL, you'd better be a good tackling team. There's so many good space players and space plays that get called that the ball is going to be out in space, and what are you going to do when that moment comes? Back here.
Justin Hamilton plays a position where his name.
I'm going to end it right there because this goes on for about another 15 minutes. But what I want to talk about here is what he has done with this defense. Going into this game, everybody talked about Minnesota. Oh my God, that offense so explosive. Kirk Cousins, he's a gunslinger, and he's got all these great weapons. And you got Dalvin Cook, that running back that the Cowboys, the defense, it's not that good of a defense. Well, that defense, still without DeMarcus Lawrence, still without Neville Gallimore, Tristan Hill, and other pieces that going into the season we deemed as starters, held them to 1 out of 13 on third downs, held them to 270 yards total offense. That, my friends, is playing lights out defense. That you can't ask for more. And they were put in a couple of situations where, they ended up having to be the one to save the game for us. We all talk about the 340 yards from Cooper Rush and the great catches from Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and, Zeke Elliott's big play on third down. But it's really that defense that is helping this team with this win streak. And the key thing on here, I want you to understand with Dan Quinn, and I worry that Dan Quinn is going to be picked up by somebody next year to be their head coach. the change in this defense is unbelievable. But as he talks about tackling, you can't tackle in practice, but it's about getting leverage. We can practice, and he says he does. We can practice teaching that leverage, getting the head across the body and things. Of course, when that guy does a jump cut and you miss, it's the pursuit. And I said last year, if you watched me last year, I literally felt like taking my pen and sticking it in my eye, watching as one guy is engaged and everybody else is standing around, or seeing guys that are just trying to hit somebody really hard instead of having technique and tackling. Because when you try and hit somebody hard, you're just kind of lowering the head, you're just kind of throwing everything in there. That person bounces right off, and that's where all those big plays came from against us